Hey everyone, I'm Exov here, and I want to try a little different video this time. I want to try and do a ranking video on all 11 Marvel Netflix seasons. So it's not just the shows in general, it's like the seasons themselves. So I would be ranking Daredevil season 1, 2, 3 separately and all that. But yeah, there's 11 seasons. There's 3 seasons of Daredevil, there's 2 seasons of Jessica Jones, there's 2 seasons of Iron Fist, there's 2 seasons of Luke Cage, there's a season of The Punisher, and there's a season of The Defenders. And obviously Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and the Defenders, none of them will be getting more seasons. It's also probable Daredevil won't be either. But yeah, so let's get into it. So at number 11, I have Jessica Jones Season 2. So this might surprise some that Jessica Jones is this low, or well, the second season is this low, but in my opinion, the second season is practically irredeemable. The entire season is just terrible. None of it works. All of the new characters introduced in this season are terrible. The villain is so unmemorable that half the time I can't even remember who it was. The first time I started watching this season, I watched the first 10 minutes of the final episode by accident instead of the premiere of the season, and I didn't even realize. I was just thinking that they were doing some weird thing where they were showing they were starting in kind of the middle of the story like a lot of shows did. It wasn't until some of the characters started referencing things that I knew didn't happen. I was like, you know what? This isn't good. This is not the right episode. But the fact that you can get 10 minutes into the final episode of the season before realizing that you're not watching the premiere, that's not a good sign. But yeah, this season was... It's practically irredeemable. For me, it's terrible. I was so disappointed after the superb first season that they would go to something like this. But anyway, at number 10, I have Luke Cage Season 1. So I actually really enjoyed this season the first time I saw it. I binge watched it the day or two after it came out, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't until I started thinking about the season more and more that I was like, you know what, that's not too good. Then I rewatched the season twice since then, mostly on Marvel binges before a new season comes out, and both times I've binged it, I found myself liking it less and less because it's, a common complaint for it is, and I don't want to, be using the common complaints, I want to try and give a unique perspective on it, but everyone knows that the common complaint is that the first 6 or 7 episodes are amazing with Stokes, with Cottonmouth, and the last 8-ish, or the last 4 or 5 episodes are terrible with Diamondback. And yeah, that's true. There is a huge amount of quality difference, but in general, in my opinion, Cottonmouth is great, but he's not good enough to elevate the season to the heights it would have to be at to match the other shows. Like Daredevil, Jessica Jones Season 1, all of them, they're on a different level of quality that shows like Luke Cage, no matter how good their villain was, they never reached those heights. And this is very apparent in Luke Cage Season 1. It's so good. It's not so good. It's pretty good sometimes, but most of the times it's kind of mediocre. I'm not gonna lie. But anyway, at number 9, I have Luke Cage Season 2. Now, this is another show that the first time I watched through it, I found myself loving it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it's not really that great overall. A lot of it doesn't work. There's a lot of characters introduced that never really go anywhere. The one character in particular who is huge in the season, and you think he's going to be huge up until the very end, he actually doesn't really do much towards the end of the season, and it ends up with the final episode being kind of just most of the cast from the first season just kind of talking together, working out their differences. And how the season ended, in retrospect, makes me really annoyed because I feel like a payoff in Season 3 would have made this season better, but we didn't get that payoff. So overall, this season doesn't really work in the long run for me. So at number 8, I have Iron Fist Season 1. So everyone hates this season. Everyone says it's the worst of the worst, and one of the worst things Marvel in general, not just Marvel Television, Marvel in general, have put out. But I disagree. Yes, the season doesn't reach the quality that most of the later seasons do. Or, sorry, not most of the later seasons, most of the earlier seasons do. But in in general, it's not actually that bad. There's a lot of pieces in this season that make it enjoyable. Ward, for example, is one of the best characters in Marvel Netflix in my opinion, and he is in this season. You have a ton of other stuff. I don't think Danny Rand is nearly as boring as everyone says he is. Most of the hand stuff is terrible. But for example, there's a fight scene at the end of episode 10 with Danny and Davos working together in the Hand compound, and it's brilliant. It's one of the best sequences in the entire season, and it's still one of the sequences that I remember the most out of all of the Marvel Netflix shows. We don't see the Iron Fist that much, but again, this is supposed to be his first season. It's supposed to be somewhat of an origin story. I know that he's supposed to have the Iron Fist already, but he's still learning how to use it. He's only gotten it recently. It's season 2, you can see that he uses it all the time, but in season 1, he's still learning. So it makes sense that he wouldn't be using it left, right, and center. And I like the slow build up to when he first uses it. He doesn't use it till the end of the second episode, and even then, it's just for a short time. And when he finally does use it, he himself feels that he earned it, and we're supposed to feel that he earned it as well. And I really like that. In 7th place, I have The Defenders. The Defenders was supposed to get multiple seasons, but because of the poor reception from the first season, they never went any further with it. And The Defenders, it was disappointing. It is 7th on my list, so I do like it more than most other of these shows because it has all of our heroes teaming up together. The first 4 episodes, if episodes 5 to 8 were the same quality as episodes 1 to 4, this would probably be top 3 Marvel Netflix shows. But it's not. This show did so poorly at bringing these characters together. It's supposed to be the Avengers of the Marvel Netflix shows, but it comes off as a cheap, terribly written mess. And it's disappointing as well because it had so much potential. It could have been so good. If this had been done and done well, I would be considering the Marvel Netflix shows probably on par with... Well, no, I was going to say I'd consider them on par with Marvel movies, but no, I wouldn't. But it could have been done so well, and it's so disappointing that this was wasted as much as it was. But it still is somewhat enjoyable when you have characters like Matt Murdock and Jessica Jones meeting each other, or Danny Rand trying to punch Luke Cage in the face. Those kind of things make it enjoyable. And I just wish it could have been more, and I just wish it could have done well enough for them to warrant making a second season, because the second season could have improved any problems the first season had, but we never got that. In 6th place, I have The Punisher Season 1. So, Punisher was great because it was a little bit different, because it was the one standalone season, or the one season for a new character that actually had build-up. Luke Cage kind of did have build-up, but he wasn't really focused on that much in the first season of Jessica Jones, so going into his season there wasn't as much of a build-up. But The Punisher was such a huge part of Daredevil Season 2, and Daredevil Season 2 is basically the Punisher's origin story, so we already knew where he was coming from with this season, and that already gave him an advantage over, say, Iron Fist Season 1 or Jessica Jones Season 1. And this season was really good, but I still feel like it wasn't good enough to match the early seasons of Daredevil or the early seasons of Jessica Jones. It was at the time the closest thing to Daredevil or Jessica Jones as we had. I was like, well, this is obviously better than Luke Cage or Iron Fist. This was also before Iron Fist Season 2 came out, by the way. But it was a really interesting take, and it was great to see a live-action TV show version of the Punisher in this universe. And Jon Bernthal is so good; he plays him so well. I just was a little let down by the Punisher. I loved it, but I thought it could have been a little bit more. But anyway, in 5th place we have Iron Fist Season 2, and this is probably the one that surprised most people because it was such a big jump in quality from the first season. It's crazy that this show could jump this far up, so much so that it's in my top 5. of the Marvel Netflix shows. I really enjoyed this season, and it's the only season that was shortened down to 10 seasons. Defenders was shortened down to 8 seasons, but it was technically a mini series. It was never really called a full season. This show, however, was still a full season, but pushed down to the 10 episodes, and that really helped it feel more focused, less rushed. I love Danny in this. Him taking over from Matt, being the new vigilante, was all great. And after this season, I was so disappointed that the show got cancelled, because the season 3 could have been so good. But yeah, it was disappointing. The season wasn't disappointing. It's disappointing it got cancelled. The season was great. In 4th place, we have Daredevil Season 2. Daredevil Season 2, for a lot of the time, I actually liked more than Season 1. I know a lot of people consider this season disappointing, but it's not really though. It's still amazing. It's still better than most of the other Marvel Netflix shows. It's still one of the best written superhero shows out there, even in its 2nd season. The 4 episodes of The Punisher at the start of the season are probably the best 4 episodes in the entirety of the Marvel Netflix universe. It's the reason why a lot of people hate it is because it's got so many pieces in the season, and a lot of them don't work. Elektra and the Hand stuff take up the majority of the last 6 or 7 episodes, and they don't really work that well. A lot of people found the Hand the worst parts of these shows, so it didn't really help that Daredevil Season 2 is essentially the Iron Man 2 of the Marvel Netflix shows, in that it was used to set up the Defenders. If the Defenders actually worked out great, Daredevil Season 2 could be held in a higher light. Like, for example, Iron Man 2 was completely destroyed back when it came out, but after Avengers, a lot of people kind of respected it for doing the things it did, but that was because Avengers was successful. Defenders wasn't successful, and thus people don't hold Daredevil Season 2 in as high a light as they would if it did do well. In 3rd place, I have Jessica Jones Season 1. And wow, this season is pristine. It is the best interpretation of a character like this we will ever get. It was so good. And that was because Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones and David Tennant as Kilgrave are amazing together. It was brilliant. This season alone made me consider Jessica Jones my favorite Marvel Netflix show up until Daredevil Season 3 came out. It was only when Season 2 of Jessica Jones came out that I started thinking, as a whole, I'm not actually a fan of the Jessica Jones series. I just really like its 1st season. And after Season 1 of Jessica Jones, I was like, I need as much of this show as I can get. After Season 2 of Jessica Jones, I was like, you know what? I don't really care if this show gets cancelled. So it sucks. But, okay, if you haven't seen Jessica Jones, I'm not going to spoil it at all. But if you haven't seen it, watch Season 1. Because, wow. It's such a unique take on a comic book character, and it's amazing. In 2nd place, I have Daredevil Season 1. The one that started it all, and still almost the best. Daredevil Season 1 is crazy good, and it normally would only be in 4th place for me. I, for a lot of the time, prefer Daredevil Season 2 and Jessica Jones Season 1 over Daredevil Season 1, but in hindsight, I do think it is the better season. Vincent D'Onofrio as Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk, and then Charlie Cox as Daredevil. Just any time they're together, it's brilliant. It's just great. And this season had everything kind of working for it. It's kind of crazy that this season alone was able to set up the entire universe and be as good as it was. Just everything in this season worked. And in 1st place, I have the newest season to come out, Daredevil Season 3. Daredevil Season 3 is... It's always going to be considered a high point in superhero television, in my opinion. Sorry, not even just superhero television. In the superhero genre, I think Daredevil Season 3 is going to be considered a high point. Because everything in this season tops everything that came before it. The 11-minute one-take scene in the prison is one of the greatest things to come out of Marvel television ever. and it's insane, and it's made the characters from Daredevil be more highly regarded, in my opinion, than some of the characters from the movies. You know, it's the same with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. After Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5, I was thinking characters like Fitz or Skye were more liked, in my opinion, than some characters from the movies. And now it's the same with Daredevil. This was the season that made me go, I think that I like these characters more than I do some of the movie characters. And that's a crazy thing to do when the movie characters are so damn likable. But that's my rankings for the Marvel Netflix seasons. And thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you!